I know there's other senior FDA colleagues on the audience list, but I want to give everybody a critical understanding. In this country, depends how you claim. It can be into food, or it can be into drug, or FDA don't even have jurisdiction to oversee you if you do not claim. Claim what? Number one, the material that you produce, you want to be put on market, have a claim that can change your structure and function. If you claim this, they become drug. Very important concept. The other way to explain whether that's going to be drug is, can they be used to diagnose, prevent, treat, or have certain capacity that the things I just said? If you claim it, become drug. So if that's a drug, FDA have to see whether there's an efficacy and what's the safety issue, and need to balance that. Is efficacy is so great that we don't need to worry about side effect, then they approve. So this concept is extremely important in this country. So water, they claim this can treat cancer. They need to submit efficacy and safety data. Okay? If they say this drug only take care of whatever your daily need, maybe you'll behave a little bit healthier, or you become more happier. You don't claim that. There's no jurisdiction to look into if you have evidence to claim for efficacy or safety. So get back to answer questions critical. If you do not claim, then into dietary supplement, FDA can only oversee your manufacturing side. Current CGMP, you just heard, the good medical practice. So that's a limitation. Extremely important in this country. You need to know the concept. What is drug? What is food? What is something that FDA really don't have jurisdiction? Hopefully I answered your question. Very straightforward, very direct. So this is a very unique concept in this country. You have to understand the definition. If you know, then you can do lots of business, operation, and maybe put on the market, not even with FDA to give you any say on that. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Any additional questions from the audience? I think the lady in the back has
I have one question about the food safety, okay? Recently, I think there is some kind of discussion about the expiration date. I don't think FDA regulates the expiration date. Manufacturer put the stamp on the jar or bottle. So what's your point of view about that?
question about expiration date is an excellent question, because we do that in our laboratory for many companies. And the reason that I say this is an excellent question is right now, all the food companies, they base on what we call the accelerated shelf life study. There's a well-known equation called Arrhenius equation, okay? That equation tells us that if you elevate the temperature by 10 degrees, you double the chemical reaction rate twice. Okay, you double it. So by that, so most companies, they say, okay, I'm going to sell my product to you under room temperature 25 degrees Celsius. So they store their product under 35 degrees, under 45 degrees, under 55 degrees. So they check over time if there's any microbial growth, if there's any changes in the food quality, separation, color, texture, or any nutrient significant changes. They use that to time back to the factor to validate and project expiration date. That's what they use. But usually the company, they will be so stupid to get very close to the borderline. So they have a safety buffer zone. So they backdate it a little bit. And then now most companies are doing is telling us the best used by or best served by. That means means that there's no safety concern, but it's just a quality issue. You might have some rancidity, you might have some different water floating on your yogurt. So they use that as, and then that comes with the storage condition. So the problem is more critical when I go to African countries that they sell the same product here, the same expiration date, but they sell them instead of in refrigerated as yogurt here, they sell them under the sun at 120 degrees in Nigeria. So that's the problem there. But in this country, I think the distribution, the cold chain is very well managed. So that's okay. And the other thing is that don't buy food from those dollar store or those are usually the ones at the tail of the expiration date. And don't buy some like intermediate moisture food, such as like a cake, a pound cake, those cakes that they have moisture in there, so bacteria like to grow. But you can buy them from like 7-Eleven or the convenience store, like the gas station. They sell it to you like $2, $2.50. But you look at that food preservative list is about this long, it can be longer, about 30 lines. In order to deter those bacteria, they load it with lots of preservatives. So that's a little bit of my addition, answer to your question about expiration date. But usually companies, they are legally responsible for the expiration date. So if any food got consumed and they have some safety problem before expiration date, they need to be in charge. If it's beyond expiration date, they can say that the responsibility is on the consumer side. Okay. But usually there's a gray area. Each company got to settle that with you. So you call them and they will settle that indirectly.
So maybe I can just add a little bit. So when we do our production, there's it's actually the state health department sets guidelines for various pathogens. So when we send out our products out from our kitchen, which is just here in Maryland, it gets analyzed and then we take it off. We take a look at it. Now, the actual fulfillment is up to every company as to what they feel comfortable. So there are guidelines, and then it's up to the company. So we set ours actually quite low, and because we have no preservatives in any of our food, we're completely dependent on time and temperature control of the production of our food. So that we cooked it to the proper temperature, that we cooled it to the proper temperature, and it's under proper handling the entire time. And I think that's one key thing to remember about expiration date. The expiration date is set, whatever company it is, on the assumption that the food was handled properly its entire life, right? So that it never went out of temperature, that it never was sat, on somebody's dock, receiving dock for however long, that it didn't thaw, that it got to be frozen or anything. So we tend to be very conservative on our set because, and because for me, because I do food, I want to make sure our food is at its very best quality. So even if it comes tests, like we do fresh juices in our stores now, fresh pressed juices, and we actually have a 7-day, we came back fully okay for 7 days, but we put a 2-day shelf life because it doesn't taste good after 7 days. So we want that turn. So it really is up to each manufacturer to decide.
About dietary supplement, which is also a category of food. Usually for dietary supplement, there is no requirement from the FDA or according to the CDMP to have an expiration date. But a company may choose to have an expiration date, in which case they will be expected to have all the necessary data to support that expiration date. And for example, if they claim USP, the company above it, meaning that if they claim that their product is according to the standards that have been set by the USP, then they have to meet those standards to the expiration date and given as the expiration date.
One question, I think she asked first.
A group of friends and myself have been sporadically purchasing unprocessed honey from a local beekeeper. According to him, unprocessed honey contains more enzymes, so it's more nutritional. What's your take on this claim?
I'm Do you know why someone you love, or someone who love you call you honey? I have 5 reasons. The main reason is that the honey from the food processing point of view is extremely difficult to deal with. Number 1, it's super saturated with sugar, but it leaves you with a bitter aftertaste. So honey can be bittery. So your honey can be bittery. Number 2, honey looks like transparent, but you shine your spotlight through it. It got diffracted. So when you think you can see through your honey, no, you're not seeing through him or her. Number 3, honey does not mix well with any ingredient. So in your heart, you have a special place for your honey. Okay? And then number 4 is that honey has such a high viscosity, so to pump it from location A to location B, it's very difficult. So your honey only moves at his or her will, not according to you. And number 5, I talk about Clostridium botulinum. Okay, it's a closed honey, so that's why American Pediatrician Association say parents should not feed kids under 2 any honey products, because honey can have botulism in it. Okay, the toxin, the most potent toxin. So honey can be lethal. Your honey can kill you. Okay, so that's why we call someone you love honey. That's my joke for today. But anyway, so Dr. Chen, your professional opinion about it?
No more comment. Let's not joke. Well, I think the general idea is local raw beef should be better, but it's not because they are talking about. Because if they are talking about because of some enzymes, then that will make you be healthier. I don't think that's true because first is the enzymes. When we eat the enzyme, our digestion system will break down that enzyme. It's not just talking about if you eat something that will become part of your body. It's not like that. So, my view is yes, that should be balanced, especially local food. To answer the question about the nutrition, yeah, local food usually is more nutritious because of storage time, the transition time from California to here, compared with from Montgomery to here. So it's more nutritious, but I don't know the real reason, but it's not because of enzymes. It's not.
My question is, if you have a frozen food and canned food, which one you prefer to buy?
Food scientist, not a nutritionist.
I happen to write this manual called Commercially Sterile Packaged Food for FDA. It's an international training program. And canned food, why we need to go through the whole extensive thermal process to process a can? It's because, number 1, it's a closed environment, so botulism can develop in there. And if your pH is not low enough, the microorganism will not die. So the only thing we can do is severe heat treatment. So usually the typical treatment for canned food is 250 degrees Fahrenheit for 25 to 30 minutes. That's a very, very long time. Put yourself in a can, you die in 2 minutes. Okay? So that's the kind of severe treatment. So all the heat-sensitive nutrients pretty much gone. Okay? So we are eating mostly starch, some residual protein. Those vitamins pretty much are not there anymore. And frozen food is made frozen for a reason because FDA and USDA believe that low temperature can control microbial growth. So without going through the extended heat treatments, the bacteria tend not to grow. In the cold weather, winter time, we don't go out, we stay home. So bacteria think like us. So FDA think like bacteria. Okay? So they put themselves in that situation. So they say, okay, when it's cold, there's no need to heat it up. So it's probably a better choice in this case. Yeah. So I hope I answered the question. But there's since your second question, okay, that's
question is, I didn't finish, sorry. Yeah. The Taiwanese people especially like feeling, a cute feeling, you know. Cute is, it's crispy, but it's also sticky. So, like a rice product, or wheat flour product, like a Zhenju Nai Cha, pearl milk tea, and mochi is a sticky rice dessert, and bao. You know, those. It turns out that to make it a cute feeling, you know, crispy and it's still sticky, it's a kind of toxic carbohydrate, right? And then also we heard that CNN just reported that Taiwan has the highest rate of dialysis and well, people on life support, you know, bionic human. So at that time, the case of toxic carbohydrate was not disclosed yet. So it's kind of a praise as the best health service at the lowest cost at the time. So any solid proof or connection between the toxic carbohydrate and the high rate of dialysis and the life support.
In terms of the scientific evidence, I think definitely we don't have the evidence to claim that it's true or not. But actually, this is a good human studies we can do based on when that carbohydrate to be used for the cute texture. So, let's say if that happened 30 years ago, we can collect data based on that 30 years and then follow it up. Next 30, 40 years. Actually, this could one day provide very, very useful information for public health. For example, after toward the end of the Second World War, so the Germans have embargoed to the Netherlands. So people who were born there, now they are reaching 60, 70 years of age. And study shows those people who were born with low body weight, low birth weight, they have an increased rate of chronic disease. So, I mean, that data, I think, will be very, actually, nobody can design that type of study because that's not ethical. But we can use that data hopefully 30, 40 years will do the next real exam.
Let me add to a little bit about that is the starch, the toxic starch. It's what we call the modified starch. Okay? Starch has two forms. One is more linear, one is more branch like trees. The one that's linear do not hold water nicely. So there's a chemical reaction that people develop, say cross-linking, so they can have a chemical bond to bond them. So they become like every single line can become a tree, and the tree can absorb water. That's the basic science behind it to create this. And there are certain acids that's allowed in the process to cross-link to oxidize this starch linear structure. But the thing that happened in Taiwan, the guy, they teach people to use maleic, M-A-L-E-I-C, maleic acid. That's the acid that's not allowed here in the US to be used. It's a cross-linking agent. That's only happening in Taiwan. So because of that particular acid is not allowed, that caused the whole toxicity event after that. So that's one thing. And the second part about these bubble tea might link to the things, I think, in my humble opinion, it might have something to do with people now quick drinking water. Everything you can buy in Taiwan is 200, 300 kind of soft drink, different kind of milk tea, different kind of, you know about the papaya milk that they sell in 7-Eleven, there's no papaya in it. The coconut milk they sell, there's no coconut in there. The apple milk they sell, there's no apple in it. It's all artificial ingredient, the flavoring agent is in it. So people are loaded with all these chemicals, the sweeteners, and your body lost balance. I think that might have something to do with it. There's no direct evidence yet, no relation to that. So, according to George, it's time, but we take Ed as the last question.
I just have a very quick question for Dr. Chen. Since you mentioned you are currently doing the obesity research, and Louis mentioned that they pull out some ingredient like obesity line? Can you comment?
Well, my comment is, if it is not necessary, don't take any supplement. Why we get obese? It's very simple. Your equation, energy in, is greater than energy out. So don't do it too much. The study shows the most effective way to extend your lifespan, proven in the monkey, as close we can get, is high calorie restriction. Don't eat too much. Okay. Energy in greater than energy out, make you fat. And that's all the problem.
We have a quick comment to
Don't forget exercise. The latest research shows that exercise and diet caloric restriction is more than twice as effective as just caloric restriction. And rather than go be hungry all day, it's again, the latest research shows that you're better off just skipping a meal and then doing caloric restriction that way, rather than constantly starving yourself.
Very good work.
Yeah, to clarify, I don't advocate to get hungry. I mean, the main point is don't overeat. Don't overeat.
Your sample